We're now on to the final presentation for Econ 3, and it's a second video for topic 10, looking at government interventions in markets. Title of this topic is CBA, what we call a cost-benefit analysis. Now, let's first of all explain how the market might fail to do things in the best way possible, and let's take an example. Let's imagine we have a business in Huddersfield that is looking to build a new factory. And let's imagine this factory is going to focus on the production of cars. So there's a potential car firm wanting to build a plant in Huddersfield. We want to know, should it be allowed to happen or not? Now, if you're the owner of this business, you will think solely about private benefits and private costs. So if you're this private car company, your private costs will be things such as construction costs, maintenance costs, factory production costs such as labour costs, capital costs, things like that. You will also think about the opportunity cost. So if you're making a massive investment into this car plant, what would your next best alternative be? So could you earn more money elsewhere by investing somewhere else, for example? Private benefits, you'll be looking at the profits or the revenue it might generate, the positive impact on your brand image of creating jobs, things like that. And it could also translate to higher market share. Now, from a business point of view, that is your job done. And you will decide to go ahead building this car plant if the private benefits exceed the private costs. So let's say, for example, you shadow price the private benefits and you think that they equate to £1 billion. If you equate the private cost to be £500 million, then you would say, I want to build this car factory. If, of course, the private costs are more than the private benefits, you wouldn't do it. You won't want to invest and create this car company. So that involves shadow pricing all these costs and benefits. Now, what a business will do when they shadow price, they will also put a net present value, an NPV, of all future costs and benefits. So when you think about things likely, when you build a new car factory, the benefits and costs are likely to exist for the lifetime of the car factory being there, which could be 30, 40, 50, even more years than that. So you will calculate all these costs and benefits for the lifetime of the project. It's very difficult to do, but what a business will try and do to judge whether the investment will be a good one or not. The problem we've got though is, from an economic point of view, this is only half the story. What a business should also be thinking about are the external benefits and the external costs. So if we were to look at a new car factory in Huddersfield, external benefits would be job creation. It would be positive multiplier effects. It might be more orders for local businesses. Simple thing of more people working means more people can afford to buy things from the local economy, helps things grow. It's also a lot of inward investment, so some big benefits there. By no means a comprehensive list, but they're three key ones. External costs would be things such as impact on the environment. Factories create pollution, people travelling to and from that factory create pollution, that's therefore an external cost. You've got congestion. You've got hundreds of people travelling to that car factory every day. Huddersfield roads are already fairly congested. This will add to the problem. So it might lead to longer commuting times for people going to and from work. So you can see there are two key external costs. Now what we should do again is shadow price all external costs and benefits, not just for this year but for all future years over the lifetime of the project, and try and put a value on these external benefits and external costs. This is where government intervention comes in. In a free market, All that will be thought about is private benefits and private costs. It will be the government who have the final say on whether this should be allowed to happen or not. So government intervention will look at the external benefits and external costs. Now let's just play around with the numbers. Let's see what different scenarios we can have. Let's imagine we put a value on private benefits of 10 billion quid. We put a value on private costs of 5 billion quid. We can see that for the business, they would want to build it, they can make a big profit on this. But let's imagine the external benefits come to £10 billion and external costs come to £7 billion. We can see that total benefits are 20 billion. We can see that total costs come to 12 billion. So the government are thinking, yeah, we've got no problem with this. The benefits far outweigh the cost. This should be allowed to happen. So that's all the government would say. Go ahead, do it, no problem at all. But let's change these numbers slightly. Let's assume that the benefits still come to £20 billion, 10 for the company, 10 for the society as a whole. Let's imagine the private costs come to £12 billion. External costs come to £7 billion still. We can see that overall social costs come to 19 billion. So still, this project would still benefit society. It's the tune of £1 billion. Difference between the full social costs and full social benefits. But the problem now is the private company will not subsidise, will not build this project. Government's thinking, well, should we help subsidise to ensure that this project goes ahead? We can see that to get the business to build this car factory, we've got to subsidise them by £2 billion. The trouble now is, though, this £2 billion becomes, in effect, an external cost for society. It might mean less investment in local roads or local schools. So these now come up to £9 billion. External costs therefore become £21 billion. So in this example here, the government would not subsidise it. Let's see an example where they would subsidise. So let's just clear these numbers first of all. So let's assume again that private benefits and external benefits both come to 10 billion. So full benefits, 20 billion quid. Private costs, 12 billion again. So the business at the moment will not fund this. External costs come to 3 billion. So we can see now that full social costs are 15 billion. So potentially if this project goes ahead, there'll be £5 billion of benefits over costs. The government are thinking now, well, if we put a subsidy to this car factory of £2 billion, they'll build it. External costs now become 5 billion. Full social cost therefore becomes 17 billion, but we've still got a £3 billion gain. So it should be allowed to happen. This is where a subsidy would be used. So the benefits of the cost-benefit analysis is it allows businesses and the government to decide whether a project should be allowed to happen or not. So we're internalising all social costs and social benefits. So let's think about the good and the bad points of this then. Before we do that, very quickly, how does CBA calculated? First of all, identify full social benefits and social costs, and that's for the lifetime of the project. We then shadow price all external or all social costs and social benefits. We also add a net present value to all the future costs and benefits, so we can decide whether it should be allowed to happen or not. Now the great thing about doing a CBA is that it ensures full social benefits and social costs are considered. So we're not just thinking about the benefits and drawbacks for the business, but the benefits for society as a whole. It will also ensure correct use of government money. So it makes sure that we're using subsidies effectively. Say, for example, one project came back that it will create £2 billion of external benefits. One creates £5 billion of external benefits. The government can decide where that money would create the best use, the best return. Bad points though, so why it might not be effective. We've got scope for government failure. Okay, looking at external costs and benefits is extremely difficult to do. So you've got a problem with shadow pricing. You've got an inability to shadow price. Getting these spot on is very difficult to do. You've also got political pressures. Okay, some pressure groups, such as environmentalists, are very strong. They pressure governments very strongly. This might mean the government might decide to make the wrong choice when they're deciding whether something should be allowed to happen or not. Normally, what these projects come down to is economic benefits, such as more job creation, investment, things like that, against problems being environmental problems. Normally, that can depend on what's happening in the economy. If we're in a big recession, we'll normally focus on the economic benefits rather than environmental problems. Times of prosperity, we might think more about the environment. So what's happening in the economic cycle can have an effect on this as well.